As a 32-year-old woman, I didn't think a forest could take sides. But after my cousin evicted me from the cabin we inherited, I watched it turn against her. First it was subtle, rotten food, doors slamming shut, animals circling the house. Then came the whispers in the trees. The footsteps on the porch when no one was there. She tried to steal everything from me. But the forest remembered who it really belonged to. I didn't get revenge. The forest did. And now, she won't even speak its name. But I still visit. I sit on the porch, breathe in the pine. And I smile. I'm a 32-year-old woman, and up until last year, I thought I finally had peace. After a messy divorce and years of working 2 jobs just to survive, I'd started to rebuild my life. Part of that was the cabin. It wasn't fancy, not even close. No electricity. Just a wood-burning stove, a creaky porch, and a view of the forest that looked like something out of a painting. It sat at the edge of a national park in the Pacific Northwest, where the air always smells like moss and rain. My grandfather built it when he was young. Passed it down to my mother and her brother, my uncle, who then passed it down to me and my cousin Mara. We each owned half. It was written into the will, clear as day. Joint ownership. Equal rights. No sale or major change without both parties agreeing. When I first moved in part-time, I was so grateful. It was supposed to be a quiet space for healing. I'd bring books, grow vegetables, paint sometimes, even though I wasn't very good. It was just mine. Well, ours, technically. But Mara lived 2 states away and never showed interest. She always called it a shack in the woods, and said she preferred hotels with room service. So I never expected her to care. For almost 2 years, I had that place mostly to myself. I didn't change much. Just added some cozy blankets, planted lavender outside, kept the old photos on the mantel where Grandpa left them. It felt like he was still there. Like he'd wanted me to have it. Like it was meant for someone who respected it. I never used it as a rental. I didn't party there. I just lived quietly, cleaned often, and took care of the land like he always taught us. Every month, I'd send Mara a quick update. She never replied. Sometimes, I'd wonder if she even remembered she co-owned it. Until one day, she showed up. No warning. No text. Just the sound of tires crunching on gravel and her voice calling my name through the trees. She was wearing heels. Heels. At the cabin. I remember walking out to greet her, still holding a mug of coffee, confused and smiling. Because at the time, I still thought this was family. I still thought she was visiting. Maybe even curious. Maybe she finally wanted to be a part of what Grandpa left us. But the second I saw her face, I knew. She wasn't here to reminisce. She was here to claim something. The first thing she said wasn't hello. It was, "Wow. You've really settled in." Like I was squatting or something. Like I wasn't supposed to be there. I tried to brush it off. "Yeah, it's been a good place for me." She looked around like she didn't believe it. Like she expected bugs crawling out of the walls. Then she wrinkled her nose and said, "I thought it'd be bigger." That's when it hit me. She'd never even been here. Not once. She'd inherited half a cabin and never bothered to step foot in it, until now. And suddenly, she had opinions. We sat on the porch while I poured her some tea. She didn't touch it. Just kept scrolling on her phone, looking up at the trees every now and then with that tight, judgmental smile. Then she said, "You know, Grandpa should have just left this to one of us. Joint ownership never works." I laughed, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. She stared at me and added, "It's not personal. But we can't both use it forever. Eventually, someone has to let go." Let go? Of what? The only peaceful place I'd had in years. The one place that actually felt like mine. I asked what she meant. She smiled like it was nothing and said, "Just something to think about." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the way she said it. She left the next morning, heels clicking down the porch steps like it was a runway. Didn't say goodbye. Just got in her car and drove off. 2 days later, I got an email. From a realtor. Apparently, Mara had listed the cabin for sale. Without even telling me. I called her immediately. "Are you out of your mind? We co-own this. You can't just sell it." She acted confused. "Oh, that was just a preliminary inquiry. I didn't actually list it, yet." I asked why she was doing this. She told me she needed liquidity. Said she was working on a startup. That her half of the cabin could be turned into real capital. I reminded her what Grandpa wrote in the will. No sale without both parties agreeing. And I didn't agree. Not even close. She sighed dramatically. "Look, we're adults now. Let's not get emotional. It's just a piece of property." No. It wasn't. It was the only thing I had left of him. Of my childhood. Of safety. But she didn't care. And somehow, I knew, this wasn't over. Something about the way she was talking. Like she already had a plan. Like I'd already lost, and I just didn't know it yet. And for the first time since moving into that cabin, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Fear. A week went by without hearing from her. I tried to convince myself I was overreacting. Maybe she'd forget about the whole thing. Maybe it really was just a preliminary inquiry, like she said. But then I came back from a trip to town and found the locks changed. I stood on the porch with bags of groceries in my arms, staring at the deadbolt like it had betrayed me. It didn't even click when I turned the key. Like it didn't recognize me anymore. I called her again. "Why can't I get into the cabin?" She sounded delighted. "Oh. I forgot to tell you, I had a locksmith come by. The door was sticking, and I thought it was a safety risk." A safety risk. She changed the locks on our cabin and acted like she was doing me a favor. I asked for the new key. She said, "Actually, I think it's best if we establish some boundaries moving forward." My stomach dropped. "I live here, Mara. You can't just lock me out." She gave a soft little laugh. "You don't live there. You stay there. There's a difference." Click. She hung up. I couldn't believe it. The worst part. I had no proof she did anything illegal. No police report would help, she was technically a co-owner. I had to climb in through the back window just to get inside. I remember sitting on the floor, shaking, just trying to understand what was happening. That night, I found my favorite quilt gone. A couple books were missing. And the framed photo of me and Grandpa. Shattered. Not broken by accident, it had been smashed and tucked behind the dresser. I didn't say anything to her. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction. Instead, I started documenting everything. Photos. Emails. Screenshots of her name on the realtor website before she took the listing down. I called a lawyer. He told me it would be messy, expensive, and take months. So I waited. I watched. I prepared. But she didn't stop. She came back 2 weekends later with a group of her friends. I wasn't even there. My neighbor Bill called me and said, "Hey, there's a party going on at your place. You hosting?" When I got back, there were beer cans in the yard. The lavender I planted had been trampled. And my paintings thrown into the fire pit. There was a note taped to the door. "You're welcome for the deep clean." Signed with a heart. I wanted to scream. But instead, I called the county office. Had them resend the deed. Had a notary confirm again, my name was still on it. She couldn't erase me. Not legally. But something in me had already shifted. I used to feel calm in the woods. Now, I was constantly looking over my shoulder. Worried that Mara, or one of her smug little friends, would show up again. The only place I ever felt peace was starting to feel poisoned. And I couldn't help but wonder. Was this just about money for her? Or was this personal? Because it was starting to feel like she wanted me gone, not just from the cabin, but from the memory of it. Like I never belonged there. But she was wrong. And the forest was about to remind her of that. I wish I could say that was the worst of it. But it wasn't. Not even close. About a month after the party incident, I came back to the cabin after spending a few days with my mom. I'd started locking the windows and hiding the key just to feel safe again. But when I pulled into the driveway, something was off. The porch light I never used was on. The door slightly open. I walked in slowly, heart pounding in my chest, ready to yell or cry or fight. But the cabin was empty. Empty. As in, stripped. The bookshelf was bare. The kitchen shelves wiped clean. Even the bedding was gone. There was a single piece of paper on the counter. A typed letter. From Mara. "Since you've abandoned the property, I've taken the liberty of reclaiming and clearing the space for sale. You are no longer welcome here. Do not return." Abandoned. I stood there shaking, staring at the place I had poured my heart into for years, emptied out like a trash bin. She'd crossed a line. This wasn't just disrespect. It was war. I called her that night, and to my shock, she answered. "You broke in. You stole my things. I'm pressing charges." She laughed. Laughed. "Oh, sweetie. You can't press charges. You don't own it anymore." "What are you talking about?" I asked. "I bought your half," she said, calm as can be. "Didn't you get the paperwork?" "What paperwork?" "I sent you an offer. You didn't respond. So I assumed you forfeited your interest. It's done now. The property's been transferred." I hung up and nearly threw my phone across the room. She was lying. Flat out lying. And yet, when I checked the property records the next day, her name was listed as sole owner. I felt like the ground dropped out from under me. I called the county. They confirmed it. Mara had filed a quitclaim deed saying I signed my half over to her. They had a signature. A notary. It looked official. But I never signed anything. I never even saw a deed. I told the clerk there must be a mistake, maybe even fraud. They told me to get a lawyer. So I did. My attorney took one look at the paperwork and said, This notarization is suspicious. If you didn't sign this, someone forged your signature. This is criminal. Finally, someone was on my side. We filed a petition to reverse the transfer and launched an investigation. But while that process crawled through the courts, Mara moved into the cabin full-time. And almost immediately, things started getting weird. I didn't even hear it from her. I heard it from Bill, the neighbor who lived half a mile down the trail. He showed up at my place one evening, hat in hand, nervous like he didn't want to be involved. "Just thought you should know," he said. "Your cousin's been having trouble." "What kind of trouble?" I asked. He hesitated. "Well, she said someone's messing with her." "But, I mean, it's just her out there." "What do you mean messing with her?" He looked around like someone might be listening. "Said her food's gone missing. Doors slamming in the night. Lights turning on by themselves. She even said she saw something outside the window last night, but when she looked, it was just trees." I didn't say anything. But inside, I felt something twist. Because I knew that forest. And it didn't do that. Not unless it was angry. Not unless someone had messed with its balance. A week later, I got a message from Mara. No greeting. No subject. Just one line. "Has this place always been this loud?" I didn't answer. But I wanted to say. No. It was never loud with me. A few nights after that, Bill called again. "She left," he said. "Left?" "Middle of the night. Packed up fast. Didn't even say goodbye." He paused. "But, she looked scared. Like, really scared. Wouldn't even drive down the full path. Had someone meet her at the main road." I stared out my window into the dark trees and whispered. "Good." After Mara fled the cabin, I didn't hear from her for almost 2 weeks. No calls. No emails. Not even one of her snide little messages. Honestly, I thought she might finally be gone for good. But then I got a voicemail. It was just breathing at first. Then her voice, trembling. "You win. I'm done. Keep the damn cabin. I never want to see it again." That was it. No apology. No explanation. Just surrender. And I should have been happy, right? But I wasn't. Not yet. Because I didn't just want her to run, I wanted the truth. I wanted justice. I called my lawyer. By that point, the investigation into the forged deed was already moving. And then, finally, a break. The notary listed on the forged transfer. She came forward. Said she never met me, never witnessed my signature. Mara had used her name without permission, scanned her seal from an old loan document and pasted it onto a completely fabricated deed. It was full-on fraud. Criminal. And the county agreed. They nullified the transfer. The cabin was mine again, legally and officially. But that wasn't even the twist. The twist came when Mara's ex-boyfriend reached out to me. He found me through a mutual friend on social media. He said, "Hey, I don't know if this is weird, but I think you deserve to know what she said about the cabin." At first, I didn't want to talk to him. But curiosity got the better of me. We met up at a coffee shop in town. And he told me everything. Apparently, Mara had never been interested in the cabin itself. What she really wanted was the land. A private investor had approached her at a tech networking event, some guy developing luxury glamping resorts. He'd seen photos of the land from her Instagram and offered a huge sum if she could gain full ownership. She told her ex, "It's just my cousin. She's soft. She'll fold." But I didn't fold. So Mara took the gamble. Faked the paperwork. Locked me out. Tried to flip the whole place for cash. And when the deal fell through, because the land was too close to a protected forest zone, the investor backed out. Suddenly, she was stuck. With a cabin she didn't want. In a place she didn't understand. That's when the forest started responding. Her ex said she told him she couldn't sleep. That every night she heard footsteps on the porch. Voices outside the window whispering her name. He thought she was losing it. Until he visited one weekend, and said he saw something in the trees. Big. Shadowy. Watching them. He packed up and left the next morning. She begged him to stay. He didn't. And 2 days later, she was gone. The truth wasn't just satisfying, it was delicious. She tried to erase me from the cabin's history. But in the end, the land itself rejected her. Whatever she woke up out there, whatever she disrespected, it made sure she never came back. And that's when I realized. I never had to lift a finger. Never had to get revenge. Because the forest remembered who it was built for. And who was trespassing. After all of it, the fraud, the break-ins, the threats, I still hadn't confronted her in person. I thought maybe I never would. But then my aunt, Mara's mom, invited me to a family barbecue. She said, "It's been a tough year. I just want everyone together again." I almost said no. But then I thought, maybe it was time. Time for people to hear what really happened. I showed up late, after most of the family had already arrived. And there she was. Mara. In a beige summer dress, sipping from a plastic cup, acting like nothing happened. Like she hadn't tried to erase me from my own bloodline. When she saw me, she froze. I smiled. Walked straight up to her. "Nice to see you, Mara. Been sleeping well lately?" She stiffened. "You don't belong here," she hissed. I laughed, loud enough for the cousins nearby to hear. "Oh, I don't belong. That's rich." The chatter around us started to die down. People leaned in. I pulled out a folder from my tote bag. Thick. Marked with tabs. "What's that?" she asked, eyes narrowing. "Just a little something I brought for the family," I said sweetly. Proof that Mara here forged a deed. Used a fake notary seal. Tried to sell off Grandpa's cabin to some tech bro who wanted to bulldoze the forest and build a damn glamping resort. A collective gasp. I opened the folder. Held up a copy of the fake deed. The statement from the real notary. A printed email chain between Mara and the investor. And a copy of the court reversal. Her name scratched out. Mine in bold at the top. The silence was loud. Even the kids stopped running. My uncle walked over slowly. Took the papers from my hand. "Read them." He looked at Mara, eyebrows furrowed. "Is this true?" he asked. She didn't answer. Just stared at the grass. Then she said. "She doesn't even use the cabin. She just sits there alone like some forest witch." I didn't flinch. "I loved that cabin. You just loved what you thought you could get for it." Her mom, the host, turned to her. "You told me she sold her half to you. That it was all above board." Mara's voice cracked. She wouldn't let it go. I was trying to help the family, turn that dump into something profitable. I cut in. By stealing. By lying. By disrespecting Grandpa's memory and his land. And then I said it. In the end, the forest kicked her out. Not me. People chuckled nervously. But I wasn't joking. She ran in the middle of the night. Couldn't even stay there. Ask her why. Everyone looked at Mara. But she didn't say a word. Because she knew. They all knew. She left the barbecue early. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't come to Thanksgiving that year. And hasn't spoken to me, or most of the family, since. The cabin is quiet again. Not the kind of quiet that makes you nervous. The kind that heals you. Birdsong in the morning. Rain tapping gently on the roof at night. Crackling firewood. The smell of pine needles drifting through the window. I still go there every month. Sometimes I bring friends. Sometimes I bring no one. But every time, I feel like I'm coming home. It took months to restore what Mara destroyed. I replaced the broken furniture. Scrubbed the walls. Replanted the lavender. I even found an old Polaroid of Grandpa tucked in the rafters, him standing on the porch, holding a hammer, grinning like he'd just built the world. I framed it and hung it right where our picture used to be. The land still feels protective. I don't know how to explain it, and I don't try to. But there are nights where the wind feels different, like it's checking in on me. Making sure I'm still the one here. And I am. The deed is in my name alone now. My lawyer made sure of that. Mara has no legal right, no claim, no presence here anymore. The last I heard, she moved into a high-rise downtown. Told people she outgrew the woods. But I know the truth. She doesn't fear the cabin. She fears what's around it. The trees. The shadows. The memory of what she did. And maybe, deep down, she knows the forest didn't want her there. Not because she was a stranger. But because she was a liar. A thief. And it remembered. I used to think revenge meant shouting, fighting, exposing someone in the loudest way possible. But now, I think sometimes the world takes care of it for you. Quietly. And with teeth. So if you ever find yourself walking down a trail that feels just a little too still, listen. You might hear the trees whispering. And if you've done something wrong, if you've betrayed someone, stolen what wasn't yours, you'd better hope they forgive you. Because if they don't, maybe the forest won't either.